Hey, shalom, shalom, mishpocha. Welcome to another edition of Ray Bash's Ramblings. I'm your host, Rabbi Yehuda ben Shomer, and today I'm going to be talking about consider the cost. Now, I'm sure that many of you are familiar with the passage in the Brit Hadasha, specifically the Besorah of Luke, chapter 14, verses 28 through 30. It says, "For which of you, intending to build a tower, sitteth not down first, and counteth the cost, whether he have sufficient to finish it? Lest haply, after he hath laid the foundation, and is not able to finish it, all that behold it begin to mock him, saying, This man began to build, and was not able to finish it." There's also a passage in the Perkei Avot, Ethics of the Fathers, chapter 2, verse 1, that says, "Calculate the cost of a mitzvah." Calculate the cost of performing a good deed. Calculate the cost of fulfilling a commandment. Now, I know the spiritual application to these passages, where it basically says that we should be willing to sacrifice and to give all, and we need to know beforehand that it's going to cost everything we have to follow Hashem, to follow His Torah, to follow His Messiah. But let me make a practical, literal application to this. I see many ministries out there who foolishly go into debt so as to see that a ministerial vision comes to fruition. Whether it be a building fund, whether it be an evangelism crusade, whether it be this, that, or the other, they get all excited and say, "Oh, God gave me this vision, and I'm going to, do this. I need your faith pledge," and blah, 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 blah. And so without having the money in the bank, without having the money that they need to start this project, and they're just going on the goodwill intentions, the faith pledges of other people, and they start a project, and they go in the red, they go into debt, trying to bring this ministerial vision to fruition. Folks, I don't think that's God's will. I don't see any evidence in the Torah or in the Bible anywhere where it says for us to go into debt to perform God's will. And there's no evidence for these faith pledges. Faith pledges. People have good intentions. They say, "Yeah, I'm going to give $20 a month for this ministry." And then the ministry goes on this faith pledge thinking, "Okay, I'm going to get this in. By faith, I'm going to get this in every month. So that's going to be able to fund this." And then when financial hard times strike, those people that had good intentions on this faith pledge, that's the first thing they cut from their budget is giving to this ministry. And they promise that they would give $20 or whatever, and they're not giving anything, and then this ministry goes without. You cannot, listen folks, listen rabbis, listen pastors, listen ministries. You can't go on faith pledges and expect to fund ministerial projects this way. People today don't really know or understand the importance of keeping your word and keeping your financial commitments. You can't depend on those. You can't go on faith pledges. When Solomon built the temple, did he say, "Well, I look in the treasury and bless God there's not enough there, but I know that if I step out on faith, that God's going to provide for me to build this temple"? No, it doesn't say that. It says that Solomon had everything that he needed, and once he had everything he needed, then he started building a temple. There was no going out on faith, And look, I'm not against sacrifice. I'm not against giving out of my own pocket to fund ministerial projects. But I'm certainly not going to go into debt or go into the red or ruin my financial situation by going into debt for ministry. And by God, I certainly am not going to take food out of my family's mouths to fund a project. It's kind of like Moses. Moses had the best of intentions. He knew he was called to be a liberator of Israel. He knew this. And yet he stepped out on faith foolishly. He called it faith, but it wasn't faith. It was his flesh disguised as the Spirit and disguised as faith. And he said, "Well, I'm going to liberate Israel." And what happened? He ended up killing an Egyptian, and he was sent off into exile, tending sheep. And then God finally came along and says, "Moses, you've been called to be a liberator. The time's right." And he says, "Oh, God, are you sure you got the right guy? Remember last time I tried to do this and I screwed up royally?" Well, that's because he did the right thing at the wrong time. Just because God gives you a vision for something today doesn't mean you have to go out tomorrow and make sure that it gets done. Sometimes visions will stay on the shelf for years until God says, "You know what? I've given you this calling, I've given you this ministry, I've given you this idea, I've given you all this time to prepare for it and to save up for it. Now it's time to take it off the shelf and to run with it. But instead people say, well, if you gave me the vision, I guess I better do it tomorrow. No, be sure that what you're doing is in the Spirit and not your own fleshly desires that are masked in the Spirit. Do I believe God's going to provide? Do I believe that God's going to see things through? Absolutely. But, it's not faith to go into debt to see a ministerial vision come to pass. That's not faith. That's stupidity. And we need to make sure that we have what we need to carry it out. Now, if this is truly a vision of God that you received, this ministerial project or idea is truly of God, He will provide the funds at the right place at the right time for you to carry it out. I don't believe at all that it's God's will for you to go into debt just to see something come to pass. And you know what? It's hard for me to feel sorry for ministries out there who's whining and crying, belly aching. Oh, we're in debt. Oh, they're going to shut the lights off. Oh, we need this. Please, I need you to send this or God's going to strike me down. I need you to send this or this money or this ministry's going to fold. Well, if this ministry's going to fold, then was it really God's ministry? Come on, think about it, people. And I'm sick of these preachers and pastors and rabbis saying, well, I've given out of my own pocket and I've sacrificed and I've toiled. And people, you didn't follow through, and they try to put a guilt trip on believers for not giving. Well, it's not my fault that you spent all your money and gone into debt for this ministerial vision you had. Consider the cost. Did you consider the cost? Did you have what you need before you started out on this project, on this ministry? Don't come crying to me that you're in debt. That's your own foolish, stupid decision. I'm all about sacrifice. I'm all about giving up, a nice meal, going out to eat for dinner, or going out to a movie, or buying a DVD or a book, or something that I want, something that I like or desire. I'm willing to sacrifice those things and lay them down and use that money I would have spent on that to fund ministry. But I certainly as heck am not going to fund out of my own pocket to the detriment and hurt of my family. God has given me a family to provide for, and that ministry to my family is just as holy and just as valid as the vision that God gave me. I'm to provide for my family first, or I'm considered a bastard according to the Bible. And so my family comes first before ministerial visions and idea. Wasn't that putting God second? No, because God said, you know what? Yes, I'm first, but I've placed your family. I've given you a family. Your family's your first ministry, and then ministry to other people comes after that. People's got their priorities and things all out of whack and all screwed up. And we really need to reevaluate things. So, again, for which of you, intending to build a tower, sitteth not down first and counteth the cost, whether he hath sufficient to finish it? Lest haply, after that he hath laid a foundation, and not able to finish it, and all behold it, and begin mocking him, saying, This man began to build and was not able to finish it. And as the Perkei Avot says, calculate the cost of a mitzvah. Folks, if God has given you the vision, He will provide the funds for you to carry it out. Don't foolishly step out on faith, because it's not faith, it's stupidity, and go in the red and go in the hole and go into debt for financially for ministries and vision. Because you know what? Egyptians are going to get killed. Ishmaels are going to be born. And you're going to try to build a tower and not be able to finish it, and you're going to be the laughingstock. And it's not God's fault. It's not the believer's fault for not supporting you and financially giving to you. It's your fault for going into debt. So I just pray that people will not take offense to this video, and will take this in the right spirit, in the right frame of mind that it was intended. Because this is a warning, folks. It's a warning. If we're going to do the work of God, we got to make sure that we've got our ducks in a row, and that we have what it takes, what is needed to finish. We need to look for the long view, the long haul of things. Thanks for watching. Shalom and Shavuot Tov.